Good evening. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is John Urino. I'm the zoning examiner for the City of Tucson, and welcome to tonight's public hearing. I conduct rezoning hearings on behalf of the mayor and council and make findings of fact, which I put into a written report, along with my recommendation, which I then send along to mayor and council for their consideration and for their final decision. My report will be based on the information submitted to me, which includes the rezoning application, the staff report, all written approvals and protests, all correspondence, and the testimony given at tonight's public hearing. I will also include in the record all documents submitted to me up to the close of the public hearing. A recording of tonight's testimony is being made. If requested, a transcript will be prepared. With that in mind, if you choose to testify, I would ask that you please start by stating your name and your address, and for the transcriptionist's benefit, spelling your last name. For special exception, zoning examiner special exception cases, I will issue my decision within 5 working days after the close of the public hearing. For rezoning cases, I first prepare a preliminary report within 5 working days after the close of the public hearing. Then I prepare a final report. The final report will be issued 2 weeks after the close of the public hearing. For those of you who wish to receive a copy of the preliminary report and are not a listed party on the case, please send an email to tucsonrezoning@tucsonaz.gov. Again, that's tucsonrezoning@tucsonaz.gov, or call the Planning and Development Services Department. A copy of the final report will be available from the Planning and Development Services Department, and I send the final report to the mayor and council. At the scheduled public hearing on the case, the mayor and council will then vote on the matter based on my recommendation along with other factors. Tonight's public hearing will proceed in the following manner. I will open the public hearing and ask Ms. Gayoso or Ms. Manning from the Planning and Development Services Department to give a brief presentation of each case. After their presentation, I will ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to make his or her presentation. I will then ask to hear from anyone in the audience who wishes to speak. Because I cannot have any communication with anyone outside this public hearing, if you have information or concerns or issues you would like to address, please do so tonight through your testimony. We will now start with the first case. The first case is case SE 2104, Tucson Water, Cloverland Avenue, special exception. Ms. Gayoso or Ms. Manning, will you be presenting the case?
Yes, Mr. Urino. My name is Maria Galloso, Principal Planner from the City of Tucson Planning and Development Services Department. This special exception request by Tucson Water is to allow for the expansion and improvements of an existing well site. The address is 350 North Cloverland Avenue. It's zone R1. It's adjacent to the west of the Highland Vista Neighborhood Recreation Center. Tucson Water is proposing a new electronic system for control and data acquisition, and with that also a new 6-foot high shade structure to protect existing electrical control panels. The applicant is proposing to maintain the existing vegetation, 6-foot high wall along the west side of the property, a 5-foot high slotted chain link fence, and access points for maintenance vehicles. The proposal was reviewed by the Design Review Board on April 9, recommending approval with the condition that Tucson Water rehabilitates the existing landscape border to standards, that maintains the vegetation healthy by any means necessary. Staff received 1 letter of support from a property owner within the 400-foot notification area, and also one email from the president of the Highland Vista Neighborhood Association requesting additional improvements to reduce the visual improvement. Specifically, the neighborhood association is requesting, clarification on the screen wall. They want it higher along the north and the west sides of the site, and they're requesting that wall to be at the same height of the existing corner walls. The neighborhood association is also requesting the vegetation to be replaced with native plants since the existing vegetation is dying or dead. All that material was forwarded to you today. So that's all I have. I believe the applicant is present and is available for a presentation and to clarify questions.
Thank you, Ms. Gayoso. Ms. Willett, would you like to be heard? You're muted.
You'd think by now I'd have this under control, but
don't worry about it. Go ahead.
For the record, my name is Lexi Wella, and I'm a project manager with the Planning Center, and we're located at 2 East Congress in downtown Tucson. I'm also joined this evening by Charlie Sulik and Fernando Molino from Tucson Water, and they can help assist any questions you may have regarding the case. Thank you, Ms. Gayoso, for your presentation. Just a few items to clarify. This request is a minor technology upgrade to the existing well site located on the north end of Highland Vista Park. And as a result of the technology upgrades, Tucson Water is also proposing a 6-foot tall shade structure to provide some protection to the equipment that they're proposing to install. And the purpose of this upgrade, just for those in the audience, is to better monitor the water company's management of delivery services there. One item to clarify, the existing site is enclosed by a 5-foot chain link fence that has an additional foot of barbed wire on top of that. And then at the corners of the well yard, it contains a 6-foot wall, decorative masonry wall. And so as part of the neighborhood meeting process and this process, we held a neighborhood meeting, and one neighbor attended that meeting, and that was the individual who lives immediately west of the well site across Cloverland Avenue. And he mentioned that his biggest concern was the timing of construction, had no issues with the proposed shade structure and its appearance as he looks at it out of his front wall. So as part of this process as well, we had to go to the DRB, and in this meeting, the DRB found the existing screening to be appropriate, with the exception of the current state of the vegetation located outside of the well site. And so between the DRB hearing and now, Tucson Water has been working with the City of Tucson Parks and Rec Department to get that vegetation back in a healthy manner. And so we've learned that the water had not been maintained and it wasn't turned on. So the water has since been turned on. And then Tucson Water and Parks and Rec are going to work with the Highland Vista neighbors to determine a more appropriate plant palette should the material that's out there becomes rehabilitable, if you will. So if they can't get it to a state, Tucson Water and Parks and Rec are willing to replace that the vegetation with a more drought tolerant species. Now, in terms of the request from the Highland Vista Neighborhood Association to enclose the yard with a 6-foot masonry wall like the corners of the well yard. And Tucson Water, the use specific standard that is required for this process, I believe it's It states that the well site must be enclosed by a 6-foot decorative masonry wall or a compact evergreen hedge, 6 feet height or minimum of 6 feet, no more than 10 feet. And so the existing screening that is out there, the oleanders, with the added condition from the DRB and Tucson Water's commitment with Parks and Rec to make sure that vegetation achieves an opaque screen, that in fact meets the use-specific requirements for the special exception. And so Tucson Water would respectfully request that we maintain the existing screening with the understanding that the vegetation outside is of importance here. And we request that we keep the existing screening as is, simply because the improvements on the site don't necessitate an expansion of the wall. Now, Tucson Water, in the event that a larger structure is placed on site or further improvements are made, that is something they're open to considering. But at this time, we feel that the existing screening with some enhancements achieves the intent of the use specific standard and the special exception. So with that, I'm happy to turn it over to you, Mr. Urino, for any questions you may have, or
Thank you. Yes. So is there any operational reason why a masonry wall would be a problem?
Currently, it's there's the cost associated with it, and then also Tucson Water, there's space limitations with the way the site is currently configured. There's probably not a whole lot of space to keep the existing straight structures in place and dig the footings for the wall. So, and again, the cost of the improvement, it's a simple technology improvement. We're not increasing, aside from the shade structure, which will mimic the existing shade structure on site, the overall impact is not as extensive that would necessitate a wall. And then furthermore, the vegetation out there combats urban heat island effect. Whereas you put in a wall, you start to change the character there. And Tucson Water would like to push forth on the mayor's mission of reducing that. So if there's if additional plant material could be installed outside of that right of way, Tucson Water is willing to explore that with Parks and Rec. However, the masonry wall is an issue currently as the site is configured.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard on this matter? Ms. Green?
Hi, my name's Abby Green. The last name is Green, and I live at 5257 East 7th Street. I'm directly north of the well, and I apologize for not being at the meeting. I actually did not receive a letter regarding it. I just saw the sign that was posted out by the site. The reason that I would have request for the masonry wall is actually for the sound, and I don't know, just as a sound barrier. And so I just wanted to put that out there as the reason why for the request of the masonry wall.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Ms. Green. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard on this matter?
Eric Shep. I'm the neighborhood president. We also didn't receive an earlier letter. We received, something related to this hearing, and I'm the one who wrote some comments about the wall after talking with the neighborhood and the neighborhood board. And I guess the comments would include, I guess, a little bit of discrepancy, and I had trouble getting in here, so I may have missed a little bit of this conversation. But the site plan that was attached to this shows the fence is 5 feet, and I don't know what the footing dimension is, but it looks like you're about 1 3/4 or 2 feet away, and I think that the property line extends a little bit farther, so there may be some flexibility for installing the wall. When I talked with the Parks and Rec people, and I don't know if this is true, I think the standard construction now would be a wall. And I know that there hasn't been a lot of improvements to this particular well site in a while, but if we're making some improvements, the placement of the wall, at least where it faces the residential structures, would be appreciated. the I understand there's vegetation there now. It's oleanders. I'm hopeful that that's a million tree initiative, but I'm hopeful that the mayor would be supportive of native vegetation as opposed to oleanders. And with respect to the Tucson water, there's a lot of locations. Hey, Mike, you need to mute.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
Mr. Shep, please.
Mr. Shep, please
Wait 1 minute.
wait
Whoever
1 minute.
is not
Whoever
muted
is
besides
not
Mr.
muted
Shep needs to
besides
turn
Mr.
off
Shep
their
needs to
device.
turn off their device.
Microphone, please.
Microphone, please.
I think it's you, Mike.
I think it's you, Mike. Hi, okay.
Thank you.
There you go.
Please go ahead, Mr. Shep.
Yes, so there are numerous locations where additional trees could be planted, and we've talked to Parks and Rec, and we can certainly inform Tucson water where those are. But the irrespective of that, I think that if the goal is screening, the existing infrastructure isn't really all that well screened now. It's visible and viewable, and so I would assume that the future improvement, it would be visible and viewable too, absent a larger well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shep. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard on this matter? Hearing someone, Jeannie, did you want to be heard on this matter?
No.
Okay, thank you. Hearing no one else, Ms. Willett, did you want to have any concluding remarks?
The only thing I'd like to add about those that were not notified was that the city provides our mailing labels, and so we notified everybody on the list that we received. So I apologize if you weren't noticed. And then one other item that I had forgot to mention that Tucson Water is also open to doing to help achieve some of the opacity or the opaqueness rather to screen that better is to replace the existing vinyl slats in the fence with a new tan vinyl slatting. And Mr. Urino, this is many cases that we've been to that we've brought before you. That is Tucson Water standard, and has with the addition of vegetation has worked on other locations as well. So again, we're confident that Tucson Water will continue to work with Parks and Rec and the neighborhood association to make sure that the screening is achieved through vegetation. But that's all I'd like to add. Thank
you very much. I'm closing the public hearing on case SE 2104. We'll now move to case C15-2102, JTRP Summer Annexation District Original City Zoning. Ms. Galloso, are you going to present this?
Mr. Urino, no, this is Corin Manning's turn.
I'm sorry, Ms. Manning, please go ahead.
I'll present this one. This is Corin Manning, Planning Administrator with Planning and Development Services, the City of Tucson. This is an application by the City of Tucson to establish original city zoning on recently annexed parcels. The two non-contiguous parcels total approximately 6.48 acres and are located approximately 500 feet west of Catalina Highway and approximately 1,400 feet north of Tanca Verde Road. Each parcel is currently developed with one single-family home. There is no new development associated with this original city zoning. The city proposes to translate the County SR Suburban Ranch Zone to City SR Suburban Ranch Zone. Planning and Development Services Department recommends approval of the SR zone to establish original city zoning. One protest was received regarding this original city zoning request, which was outside the 150-foot protest area. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone in the, would the applicant, Mr. Chukowski, would you like to be heard?
Thank you, Mr. Reno. No, I just want to confirm that I know this is the translational zoning. As Ms. Manning mentioned, it's going county SR to city SR as required by Arizona state law. Any future change of use, I just want to make sure for the group, there's no folks on here for this conversation that there is going to be a subsequent meeting of this group sometime down the road to address those issues. But for the original city zoning, this is satisfactory. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chakowski. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard? Hearing no one, I will close the public hearing on case C-15-2102. Our next case is case C-9-2105, Wilmot and I-10.
Wait, we weren't done.
I'm sorry. Who is speaking? Please say your name and address for the record.
Arlene Rosner and Christy Morrison, 9149 East Moreville Way,
Okay,
Tucson,
please go ahead.
5749.
Great, thank you. Please go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure, we had a meeting on Monday, and I wanted to make sure that the city is aware of what was discussed at that meeting in terms of Moreville Way, drainage, the wall size, lighting, all of that other stuff. I'm hoping will be taken up at a meeting further down the road that Mike was talking about. I don't know if that's what he means by having a meeting down the road.
Well, I think Mr. Chakowski's point was that this is establishing translation zoning. So it's not really changing the zoning. It's taking the county SR zoning and translating it to city SR zoning. So under state law, when property or land is annexed into a city, then the city is required to establish essentially the same zoning classification on the land that's been annexed. And I believe what Mr. Chakowski was referring to was that there may be a future rezoning application on this land to change the land from city SR to some other category. So that's what I think was going on there. Did you want to tell me anything else though about your concerns?
I appreciate your answer. Thank you. I think Christy Morrison might have something.
So
Okay.
as far as annexing from county to city, to oppose that, are we at the correct meeting to do that?
Yes,
This-
not the annexation, but the zoning.
Okay, this is the correct time to do that. Is that correct? The meeting down the road will not.
The meeting down the road would happen if there is a rezoning application to change the zoning from city SR to some other city zoning classification. Today's hearing is about adopting original city zoning, and as I mentioned, by state law, cities are required to translate or adopt the same zoning classification that was in place under the county.
Okay, so now we all live on 1 to 3 acre parcels, and we've seen the plans for this other, which is going to end up being 136 housing units in this 3 acres of land. So obviously that's going to change from a rural setting into more of a city setting.
Sure.
So that will be, then after this meeting, then they're going to go ahead and make the application to be able to do that. Is that
would
correct?
be correct. That's correct.
Okay, and then, because we've been trying to follow this, we're not getting a lot of information about that. But the next meeting, then, will we receive notification of that? So we
I would
can,
ask Ms. Manning to speak to the notice requirements, but generally speaking, folks who live within a certain distance from a property that is to be applied to be rezoned receive notice. Of course, there's always notice on the Planning and Development Services website and other city pieces of other city websites that give notice of rezoning applications. But Ms. Manning, can you inform us more particularly on what the notice would be for a future rezoning application if it happens?
Yes. As the zoning examiner stated, there are notice requirements, and for a rezoning, all properties within 400 feet of the subject site receive notice of both a neighborhood meeting as well as the zoning examiner public hearing, as well as any registered neighborhood association within 1 mile of the site. So if you essentially, if you received a mailed notice for this original city zoning, you would also receive a mailed notice for a future rezoning of the site.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Manning.
Thank you.
And I have one other quick question. Does that require 51% of the people that live in that area to approve of that, or is that talking about an annexation?
That's not a requirement of a rezoning.
Okay,
I think you're correct that it may be the annexation, but I don't want to go outside my bounds and give you an
okay,
answer.
thank you.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you. We needed that.
Appreciate your time.
Oh, I appreciate your participation. Since I
Sorry to
closed that
interrupt.
hearing too early last time, is there anyone else in the audience who would like to be heard on case C-15-2102? Hearing no one, I am closing the hearing, and then we'll turn again to case C-9-2105, Wilmot and I-10.
This is a request by Aaron Harris of Kimley Horn on behalf of the property owner, Utah Real Estate, Michael Anderson and Patricia Ritchie, Julie Horn, and JD Family Trust for a map correction to remove remnant zoning of 2 RV zoned rectangular portions in the middle of a 32-acre site zoned for C2 commercial and located northwest of the interchange of Interstate 10 and Wilmot Road. The 1.2-acre subject portions of the site to be rezoned are located approximately in the center of the property and are comprised of 2 rectangular portions bordered on all sides by the existing C2 zoned land. It is intended that the 2 pieces of RV zoned land be rezoned to create a continuous and uniform zoning district. The rezoning request is a cleanup of remnant zoning to prepare the site for future development under C2 zoning and compatibility with the surrounding area. Planning and Development Services Department recommends approval of C2 zoning as requested, subject to preliminary conditions. Field inspection by staff indicates that there is an existing non-conforming billboard on site located along the I-10 portion of the site at the northwest corner of the property. A proposed rezoning condition is to remove the existing billboard. 1 protest was received for this rezoning request within the 150-foot protest area. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manning. Ms. Harris, would you like to be heard?
Thank you. Yeah, Erin Harris, Harris with Kimley Horn, 333 East Wetmore, Suite 280. I am the engineer and owner's representative for this project, and Ms. Manning did a fantastic job describing exactly what it is we're attempting to do here. We have the 2 inexplicably zoned RV rectangles in the middle of this otherwise C2 parcel, and we are looking to develop the 32-acre parcel in a consistent and thoughtful manner, and wish to not have the obstacle of working around those RV zoned rectangles. So with that, yeah, we're requesting that those 2 RV zone rectangles be zoned to C2, consistent with the remainder of the parcel. I've reviewed the preliminary staff conditions with the owner, and they are amenable to all of the staff recommendations. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have, and I appreciate your time. Thank you, Ms. Manning, Mr. Reno.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. I don't have any questions at the present time, but I appreciate it. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard? Mr. Walker?
Yes, I represent one of the owners, Utah Real Estate Development, and just a couple of points of clarification, if I may. currently that sign that sits on the property has been there for years, and we're not necessarily opposed to having the sign company remove it. Is there a time?
You're cutting out, Mr. Walker.
Can you?
We could hear you up to the point where you said, is there a time?
Can you?
No, we can't hear you. Maybe,
The
Mr. Walker, we're not able to hear you. Let me call on a couple other folks, and then we can come back to you if that's okay.
That's
Okay, and then if you wouldn't mind muting your device while we do that so we don't get feedback. Mr. Cox, did you want to be heard?
I'll defer to Mr. Anderson.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Anderson, would you like to be heard?
If you can hear me, I think Mr. Walker was just wanted to clarify the time frame for the removal of that sign.
Okay. Anything else to add to it, Mr. Anderson?
I don't think so. I think that was our only point of clarification. We have a lease on that with the sign company, and we want to make sure that we can conform with that lease for the sign removal.
Okay, and what does your lease require? Is it a month to month? Does it require a certain amount of time?
I think we're at a month to month now.
Okay, well, I'm certain we can
I'm not
work.
certain.
Okay, I'm sure we can work through that issue. Ms. Harris, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I don't think so. The rezoning conditions list that the billboard should be removed within 90 days of the issuance of a grading or a building permit. So that gives us a pretty wide area of timing to take care of that.
I would agree. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard? Hearing no one, I want to thank everyone for their participation in this matter. I'm closing the public hearing, and that's our last case. So I hope each of you has a lovely evening. Thank you very much for participating. Good night.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.